What is up YouTube, it's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, back again with another deck profile. Today we're going to be looking at a list for Silverhorn Beast King Magnolia. So this is coming right out of the Stoichea trial deck if you picked one of those up. There's honestly a very minimal upgrade or investment you need to make to upgrade this deck. I think this deck can really go toe-to-toe with absolutely anybody, and I know I kind of sound like a broken record on some of these profiles, but I think that this deck is kind of slept on or just not respected as much as it should be. This is definitely an aggro deck, so if you like that kind of play style, this might be for you. It also just has like a certain tempo element to it. I think OverDress in general has a very like wait for the right moment kind of thing. Like you have to feel out when the game is going to go in your favor. It's not just, oh, I plot my cards down, I do what they do, and like boom, I'm going to win the game. No, this has a lot of different options within it. I don't think people realize that. On top of that, I think there's just like multiple tech cards you can put in here. It's going to help facilitate your strategy, just surprise your opponent, because I think that what was it, Zolga and whatnot has a, or Zorga, I forgot what they exactly call it in English, but I think they have very interesting order cards that can be incorporated into here. So I'm going to show you guys what I am running today. Without further ado, let's hop right into the ride deck and then straight into the deck profile, and we'll have a test hand at the end. Alright, going from the bottom up, I'm actually going to be starting with the regular starter, so, you know, no big deal. I'm just keeping on theme there. You can use the Zorga one if you really want, or Zolga, whatever it's called now. The second card that I am running, I am choosing to run the trial deck, ride deck. I'll explain why in a little bit. I know some people have the RNG problem, you know, you can call a trigger from up top, but that is not really an issue in this deck. I'll show you the card that I am running to kind of get around that. So this guy is Silverhorn Beast Charis. Its skill auto, when this unit is written upon by the grade 2, we get to reveal the top card of our deck. If it is a grade 2, we can, or less card, we can call it a rearguard circle, and if it isn't, put it into our soul. Basically, if it's an order, you put it into your soul, because the trigger units are unit cards now. So its second skill continues in the back row. During the battle that its unit attacked, this unit gets an additional 5k. So it's nice because you can soul blast this out and recur this with a certain card. I'll show you that also in a little bit. So the 5k, making sure that it is able to hit from the back row is very nice. So overall, not too bad. Of course, we are running, again, no surprises here, the Silverhorn Beast Lattice. So this guy's skill auto, when ridden upon by the Magnolia, we get to soul blast one, reveal the top card of our deck, and if it's a unit card, call it to rearguard circle, and if it isn't, put that into our hand. So it's a second skill auto on back row rearguard circle. When this unit attacks the Vanguard, soul blast one, this guy gets an additional 10k until the end of battle. So really not too bad overall, getting that pressure on rearguard circle if you choose to attack, and again, you can soul blast this out and recur it, so not bad at all in that regard. Also, the fact that you add that order to your hand potentially helps a lot as well. And again, just making sure that your field is kind of filled up with random stuff from the top. We want to be calling as little as possible from hand, and really just making sure that we can kind of get those good cards off the top and just put them onto our field, just save us a little bit of hand, because I feel like hand size is so important in OverDress. Obviously it is in V and in Premium and everything, but I feel like there aren't too many hand generation cards, especially in, I feel like, yeah, in Stoichea at least right now, for this archetype. So I feel like, you know, as much as you can call from deck, and, you know, hopefully they're good cards, that really saves us a lot. But the last card we are running, obviously, in this ride chain is the Magnolia itself. Its skill at the auto on Vanguard circle. At the end of battle, this unit attacks, counterblast one, choose one of your back row, or choose one of your rear guards, and until the end of turn, that unit can attack from the back row, and it gets an additional 5k. If you persona rode this turn, this guy gets to choose 3 of our back row rear guards. So really nice, because you can make those 6 attacks, and there are a lot of ways you could spread power in this deck to make those back row units kind of hit and just be a little bit more impactful than they typically would. So let's dive right into the deck profile now and get started. Alright, hopping right into the deck profile now. So we are looking at 3, obviously, additional units of the Magnolia. Nothing more to say really here. We want to be persona riding to ensure that we can get maximum power to our front row, get that draw off, and just be able to choose 6 units instead of 4, because 6 attacks are greater than 4, obviously. Again, very nice kind of like aggro strategy if you're into like Excel, just multi-attacking kind of stuff. This might definitely do it for you. Next up, we are looking at a triple rare out of Genesis of the 5 Greats. This card is honestly so good. This can pair with a lot of things, and I'll explain a little bit later what some differences from my deck are that you can choose to run instead, and that pair really good with this card. But this guy is Silverhorn Beast Gucio. Oh my god. Magnolia, I think that's how to say it. Its skill auto on back row rear guard circle. When this unit attacks, counterblast one. Choose one of your other rear guards, and it gets this unit's power until the end of turn. So obviously you choose Magnolia to restand this guy, and when it attacks from the back row, when it attacks, you counterblast and just give your power away. So if you got triggers, you can put it on here, make a really impactful attack. If you get the over trigger, obviously you can put it on here. There is a big thing with the over trigger. I'm going to go over it once we get to the triggers a little bit later, so stay tuned and remember this card's skill. Overall, just really helps your attack pattern, so you can swing with Magnolia, swing with him next, you know, give the power elsewhere to another very impactful unit, depending on, you know, who hit what. Like if they hit a trigger, you might want to put it on a different unit compared to, you know, what you initially had planned. So nice little attack pattern there, even if you are just standing him to attack. It is the next card up in our deck. This next grade 2 is actually from the trial deck. This is going to be Silverhorn Beast Dooger. So its skill, if you have 4 or more other rear guards, this unit gets an additional 5k. So this is not hard to do in this deck. Calling off the top, this is one of the cards that made me say, like, okay, I'm going to run the regular trial deck ride chain, because this card is really impactful. Honestly, that 5k, I feel like you need to always have a grade 2 that hits that additional 5k. I feel like in every archetype they just have it, and this guy happens to be ours, so I really like it. It's not hard to hit those 4. Very impactful once you give the Silverhorn Beast, what was it? I'm sorry. The Stoichea. If you can give the power over to him, it becomes a 15k. If it's persona ridden, that is a 25k, and you could be giving at least an additional 10 to that. So, you know, 35k attack unboosted is pretty impactful, I would say. Like, you want to hit 33. 33 is that magic threshold number in this game, and this guy goes past that, which is really nice. So I am running this at 4 of, and again, the requirement for rear guards isn't typically a real issue that I've run into so far. Another card that I am running, I think this is pretty standard for everybody, but this actually interacts a little bit differently in my deck compared to some others. This is going to be Spurring Maiden Alenia. So the skill, auto on when this unit is placed on rearguard from hand, we get to counterblast 1, soul blast 1, choose a grade 2 or less card from our drop called rearguard circle, and again it says an additional 5k until the end of turn. So it's nice because if your opponent's picking stuff off, you can just call it back with her. Just making sure that you have these in hand really opens up a lot of different lines of play, and you're not afraid to start guarding with some of the grade 2s in your front row, just giving you a little bit extra shield because you have her. Just be cognizant of your resources. A counterblast and a soul blast is pretty heavy, but you're getting another body on board for it, plus giving it an extra 5k. So if you know you're persona riding, trying to attack from the back row, need to give something a little extra power, this definitely can be a great unit for that. And also it pairs really well with this next card that we are going to be going over, which is 3 of this order card actually. This is going to be Ghost Chase, so I think this is definitely like more of a Zorga card in a lot of ways, but it's just so good. I think you can use it in this deck, and I've been using it. It's really useful. So this skill is choose one of your units, gets an additional 5k until the end of that battle. Choose one of your rear guards not being attacked and return it to hand. So this card is a blitz order, can only be used defensively. Obviously that is, I feel like that's a question. When I went to locals, a lot of people didn't realize they can only use blitz order on defensive turns, so obviously heads up there. But so what you do is essentially, you know, you give your Vanguard, whoever's being attacked, that additional 5k, you pop this back to hand, and you can just recur stuff. Like, you're not afraid to have like a rear guard attacked or whatever. You're not afraid to be guarding out, like I said, and I think that this card really helps us conserve and make sure that our field will be filled with that Alenia. So yeah, I think this card is very good overall. Next up, I am actually choosing to run a very interesting ordering card. I don't see a lot of people do this, but I am going to be running Tearful Malice. So why am I running this? Let's go over the skill first and I'll tell you. So this guy's skill is play this with a cost to retire 2 rear guards, draw a card, put a card into your soul, and countercharge 1. So obviously this deck runs through resources. Like everything that we've gone over so far, like the Silverhorn Beast stuff, like that guy uses a counterblast. The and, oh my god, how do you say her name? Alenia. Counterblast and a soul blast. Like, a lot of things do use these resources in our deck. On top of that, with the ride chain, if you get unlucky and hit those triggers, that's fine. You're going to retire 2 of them. That's absolutely fine. You can then countercharge 1, put this into our soul, and draw. Like, you don't feel guilty calling over something which you might have hesitated to do before, to give yourself just a better offensive play. Also with this card, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, you can also pop back a trigger from your field right back into your hand, so you can get a little extra shield value out of that, defending with this guy, getting that card back to your hand. So overall, not too bad. These cards, I feel like if you play these right, like, they're definitely going to change the game for you. Like, I don't see a lot of people playing these in their deck, and I think there's definitely room for it, and I think there's a lot of options you can go into in this deck. And then our last grade 2 now, we are going to be looking at just one additional Sylvan Hornbeast Lattice. So I think with Lattice you can recur the one that we Soul Blast out. We already went over this during the Riot Chain, but I think that just one is fine. Like hitting from the back for that Soul Blast one, getting that additional 10k is pretty impactful, but it is a Soul Blast and it can be a little bit costly at times. Like sometimes you just won't have the soul for it. So overall, I think it's fine. And again, we can recur it if we need to. So I am running that just one of. Moving into our grade 1s then. So this is really like the MVP of the deck. This is a really, really great card. This is going to be Conspiring Mutant Adamantis. So its skill, auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, choose one of your other rearguards, gets an additional 5k until the end of turn. So really you want to pair this with the grade 2, oh god, what's his name? The Sylvan Hornbeast Ginosia, I don't know, I think that's how to say it. Anyway, you give him an additional 5k, he's going to be giving a 15k to somebody else, especially the grade 2 from the trial deck, the Dooger. So if you give, Dooger 15k on top of the 15k that he already is, that's 30k, Persona Ride, that's 40k, just makes a really nice number to hit overall. So I think this card is nice, and if you have a card that cannot hit, just like a very vanilla kind of rear guard in the back, can't get that additional 5k, don't have the resources for the extra 10k, whatever the case may be, this 5k goes a long way overall and is decent as a booster too. Don't be afraid to boost. I know you can attack obviously when Persona riding, but that additional 8k definitely helps when boosting. So yep, running that at a 4, definitely a necessary card. Moving right along into our next grade 1, we are actually still running 2 of this guy. I think this is actually a decent card. I think that it helps us push early. It's good early game. Like obviously you're going to be calling it down, just attack. Like if you want to put a little extra pressure, you can then move this to the back row, swap them around, do whatever you really want to do. Not too crazy overall, but this is just like a solid costless attacker from the back row. So when you're playing Magnolia, you don't want to be restanding all these cost heavy kind of grade 2 rear guards, whatever the case may be. This guy's just like a free 13k. Like you can up its power too by giving it the power from the Gnosia. You can do a lot of different things essentially to get this some more power, but that 13k essentially ensures that you are boosting this guy just enough to be able to hit your opponent and threaten for a hit. So overall, just 2 of them are fine, I think, in my opinion. Next up, obviously we are running PGs. I'm not going to go too deep into this. We just, PGs are good. People swing big. You need PGs and nothing else really to say. So for the regular PGs, from the genesis of the 5 grades, if you can't afford these, you want to, make this a little bit more budget, just use the trial deck ones. I feel like it rarely ever comes up. The, maybe 1 out of every 10 uses or something. Probably even less than that, the second skill where you just discard this from hand if it's the only card in hand. All right, moving right into the triggers now. So there's definitely kind of like a debate here, at least in my head. I know some other people have kind of mentioned this before, I think, but right now I am trying out this overtrigger. It's hard to test the overtrigger because there is only one of them in the deck, so I don't really know which one kind of plays better in practice, but there's definitely a case to be using the regular, just Cray Elemental overtrigger in this deck because of the grade 2. So when you drive check the Cray Elemental one, obviously you can give the power to anyone you want, and you give an additional 100 million to another unit. So you're going to give it to the Sylvan Hornbeast Gnosia, whatever you say, however you say it. And then when he swings, he gives the 100 million to another unit. So this, like I said, there really is the case that you can be running this. This guy's skill is that it gets, one of our units gets an additional critical if drove check until the end of turn. Our front row units get 10k. We get to heal an additional damage if we're at the same or more damage than our opponent. So overall, like, you really can't go wrong either way. If you want to go for like a super aggressive kind of play, you're typically going to swing with your Vanguard first. So if you're going to hit an overtrigger, this guy could be the deal. And getting 3 unblockable attacks, pretty much, like only it's PG or GG at that point. And if you're pacing correctly, and if you hit this, on your second grade 3 ride, I really think that this is a blowout card. Right now, like I said, I'm just trying to test between the 2. Right now, I am running this one in my deck, but that could change any day now. So really up to you which one you want to do. Aside from that, I am running 3 draw triggers right there. I'm running 8 crit for heal, 3 draw, and obviously that overtrigger. So nothing too crazy here, just keeping it standard. You want to put that pressure on with the crits. I feel like a lot of units in this deck already give themselves power, so we don't really need the fronts as desperately as some other decks. Obviously heals because they are heals. I really like the art on this too. I didn't think it looked that great, but then I saw it in person. I was like, wow, looks pretty decent. And I think, yeah, the draws are good too. You just want to really supplement your hand size, make sure that you have just a decent enough hand overall, maybe get some of those key units, but nothing too crazy overall. Again, just check to see which overtrigger you really want. If you want to make it more budget, totally go for the Cray Elemental one, no problem at all. I feel like this deck can be put together for decently like a budget price. I think outside of the triple rare, there's nothing else in this deck that really costs too much. Obviously, well, Magnolia if you want to triple rare it, but yeah, let's hop into a test hand right now, and I'll show you guys how the deck kind of plays out. Alright, let's start off with the test hand here. Oops, there's a little bit of glare on my ride deck. I'll just switch it that way, you guys know what it is. But we are going to shuffle up and pretend that we go first, as we do in all of our test hands. Overall, I really like this deck. It is kind of an aggressive deck. I think that you can get ahead of a lot of decks if you pace right and correctly throughout the game. Overall, you just really feel out their hand size. If their hand size is like whittling down, yeah, go for it. You know, try to Persona Ride on that turn. Just make sure that you get that all 6 attacks. Whoops. If not, you know, you can just make sure that your attacks are pretty powerful with that triple rare grade 2 to Stoichea, however you pronounce it, honestly, I don't really know. And make sure that like you are just putting on big column attacks in order to whittle down their hand and kind of feel the pace of the game. Definitely putting back the over trigger. I'm also going to put back a heal. I think I'm going to keep the rest of the hand. The PG is always solid. I got the grade 2 we want to see, and we also have a grade 2 order card. I can ditch that because it's kind of early in the game if need be, but I'm going to get 1 and 2. Okay, not bad. You're not afraid to ditch units really in this deck as much because of that, the other grade 2, the one with the vine up there, she is, yeah, the Elenia, just because she can recur things back from the drop, which is nice. So kind of a bit of recursion there, borrowing from a bit of the Zolga, whatever it's called, strategy as well. So, alright, we're going to stand and draw for our turn. Whoops, going to put that back on top deck. I am going to discard him, actually, just because, like I said, we can recur him later on if we run into that other card, and we have one in hand. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Hang on to some shield, and we are going to ride our grade 1 Vanguard, pass it over to our opponent because we have no draw, because we did go first. We're going to take a damage for their turn. Boom, critical trigger. Alright, going to stand and draw now for our turn. We are going to ditch something from our hand, so don't really need this at the moment, so I am going to actually ditch that. I'm going to pop into our lattice. We are going to use the skill of our grade 1 ridden upon. We're going to call this, we're actually going to call this here because we are going to attack on this turn, but we can shift it back to the back row if need be a little bit later. What else am I going to do? It's really beneficial to have an extra +5, so you know what, I think I'm going to bleed my hand a little bit here, but I think to be aggressive this early on, if I'll show you kind of the 5k issue that I was talking about in just a second, or just conundrum, whatever you want to call it. This guy gives him an additional 5k, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing here. Let's pretend, you know, our opponent hits a trigger, whatever it is. If I did hit a trigger and they hit a trigger, now that this guy is an additional 5k, this is going to be a 15k, which is going to be 25k once I put the trigger on them. That is essentially going to make it still at least 2 cards to guard from hand, or a 10k or a 15k shield, which is a trigger. So I think that early on, if you want to be aggressive, having that grade 2 with the additional +5 on it, I know it does expend a little bit more from hand overall, but it's just worth it in my opinion. And plus you get the +3 booster on there, which is, yeah, you still need to have at least a 15k guard or 3 cards from hand, which is tough. I mean, if you hit that critical trigger, your opponent would go to 3 if they did not guard this card. So yeah, makes it a tough situation overall. Gonna pass it over to our opponent though. Going to take 2 damage for this turn, 1 and 2. Let's heal out 1. I'm gonna heal out this guy actually. We are going to now stand and draw for our turn. Here we are. Alright, so do I have anything I want to retire? Not really. Don't have the recursion person either, but I am going to... let's see, what do I want to discard? I am going to, at this moment, discard this, just because we didn't call it like bad units down necessarily, so let's ditch that, ride into our Magnolia, and let's use the skill. We're going to Soul Blast 1. I'm going to Soul Blast this one actually, just because if we do find that recursion, it is nice to call that out from the drop zone. We are now going to, what else? We are going to look at the top card of our deck, and it is a unit, so we are going to call it, let's say it's here. Let's call this guy down right there, and you know what? I'm going to hold on to everything else in our hand. Don't want to expend fully. We don't have that card that needs an additional 4 other rear guards either, so let's put him up. We don't mind because we're going to give him the power of here, so he will be able to hit. Let's just proceed. Let's enter our turn. Let us swing over here. This is going to be at the end of the battle, right? Yeah, at the end of the battle. So we are going to drive check. 1. Let's give the power draw. And, oh, drew the over trigger, no, and second drive. Okay, cool. So we did get that recursion piece that we were talking about. So we are going to next swing, or I'm sorry, we're going to counterblast 1 over here. This guy gets an additional 5k. So this is 15. This is 25 right now, right? Just want to make sure I got everything in order, right? With the 5k, yeah, it gets back row. All right, perfect. Now we're going to swing with that. This is going to be a 25k beater. And then when it attacks, we are going to counterblast 1, give our power over there. And anything else that I want to do at this moment? No, that's it, right? Yep. Okay, so 25. We were going to do a 25 plus 5. This is now going to be 30. And this is just going to be an 18k. So pretty impactful turn. Big columns overall. Let's just go into one more turn just to show you how things kind of play out. So let's go 1, 2. Take that. You know, let's guard something else out. I'll guard with the PG here. I mean, the over trigger. What else? I'm going to guard with the shields right there. And I think that about sums it up. So let us stand now and draw for turn. All right, did get that other grade 2, which is really nice. We're going to Persona Ride here. Let's just use the triple rare on top. We are going to draw a card then. My whole front row gets a plus 10k. So what else do I want to do? I am going to... Yeah, let's make this interesting here. So we're gonna call her down. We're gonna use her skill. Do I want to do that actually? Could do that. You know what? Might not want to do that. Yeah, I might not want to do that. I'm not gonna use her skill. I am gonna call her though. All right. You know what? Yeah, let's hold that. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I am next going to replace this right here. I'm going to give an extra 5k to this gentleman in the back, the Magnolia. I think that's how to say it. And we are going to swap these 2 units because he has the Soul Blast when he attacks. I think that's all I want to do right now. I'm not going to use her skill, but I do want that 10k body at least. Yeah, I could have gone. Actually, no. Since I'm not using her skill, I'm just gonna go with this guy instead. Sorry about that. We are going to, yeah, because he gets an additional 5k when he attacks from the back row. So I'm gonna give the 5k additional over here, like I mentioned. So that's out of 15k. We are going to swing now. We are going to swing for, this is going to be 23. 1 critical trigger, power crit, whatever the case is. Let's also give the power here, I guess, and draw off of that. So that was pretty solid. We have a lot of shield in our hand now for next turn. So this is 1, 2. This is 35 now by itself. We're going to counterblast and give the ability of all of our back row units to attack. So next up, I think I'm going to swing just 18, 18. Let them do their thing, and then I'm going to swing. This is 35, I believe. Yeah, 1, 2 triggers I put on there plus the 5. Yeah. Oh no, plus that. This is actually 40 because he gets 5 from that, 5 from here. Yeah, it's 40. I'm sorry. So we're gonna do 40, counterblast 1. We're gonna give the power, you know, to let's say, I don't know. It doesn't really matter if your opponent hit a lot of triggers or hit 1 trigger at least. You'd have to give it to him to get over that. If not, you know, let's just say they didn't hit any triggers so far. They've guarded, you know, these 2 smaller attacks out. We're going to give it to the big boy over here. We're going to swing next with this, the 13. And we are then going to, or actually, no, it gives a plus 5 to, yeah, it gets the actual plus 5. So this is actually 18. And then we're going to swing over here. We're going to Soul Blast 1. And we are going to get an additional 10k. Let's just do that sideways so I know. Gets an additional 10k plus the 40k right there, which is a 50k attack. So overall, that's kind of the idea of the game. Just make sure that you are pacing correctly and trying to just play the game a lot. Like, you need to test this deck quite a bit and just make sure that you have the right columns and the right attack order, because if you have it in the wrong attack order, you can really screw yourself over bad sometimes. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment below. This is Alex from Team Generations signing out.